Hello.
Hello, Christine.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Good. And hi, Pat, by the way. I'm sorry I didn't see your message till just now. I see you're trying to thaw out in cold and windy Oshawa.
Oh, voice, yeah.
Here it's beautiful. I have to admit, today it's like straight up 70 degrees. Of course, I don't know what that is in Celsius, but it's perfect weather here. So how is it where you're at? Anna, how about you?
Oh, Anna is from Alberta, Canada.
Yes. And so is it cold there?
Today is sunny, but in the morning it's still kind of like -8 Celsius. So it's still cold.
That is cold.
Yeah, but we already spring ahead.
I know. We just spring ahead too. I didn't know if you guys did that, and I found out. I was looking on my world clock to see what the date was, and I'm like, oh, Canada does it too. So that's great.
Yeah, we have to catch up with ya.
That's right. Oh, well. Oh my goodness. I'm having a lot of messages on Facebook right now, and I'm trying to get through them all and make sure I'm not ignoring anyone who needs on or something. Yes. We had someone, Anna, I feel like, do you also get on the Thursday one?
Yes.
I was thinking so. Okay, yes. So do you remember Adriana from South Africa? I don't know if you...
Okay, so well, what is it about?
Well, she just lost her mom today, and so I was just going to see if you would cover her in prayer if you feel led. And I know that she's having a hard time today, so I just thought, oh, you know who she is.
Well, sometimes we kind of like, I don't know, sometimes we just use the video and the audio, right? So I'm not so sure like, in my, and we all each so concentrate on doing our part sometime.
Yes.
Okay, hi, Katrina is there. Hi. Katrina come on Thursday too.
Yeah, she comes on Thursday too sometimes.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi. And there's Bella. She also comes on Thursday sometimes. We have some double dippers in this group.
Hey, Bella.
Hi. Oh, goodness. Well, can you believe that this is the last class of the intro sessions?
No.
I know. I feel like we need to do more. I'll make this announcement later too, but I'll be opening up my mentoring group. And then we have a couple other mentoring groups that we'll be starting too. So if you guys want to join our mentoring groups, they're at different times, so it may or may not work out for you guys. But you're welcome to join a mentoring group if you'd like from the source, and so then we can keep going. I'm also going to start another intro class, so the exact same thing that we already did. I'm going to do it again for other people, and so of course if you want to join in again, which you don't have to because that would be a lot of the same thing probably, but if you want to, you can, and you can of course invite people if you think that they need to get in on it too. So should be good. So hi Connie. Oh, I can't remember who TC Networking is. There's Birdie. Hi.
Hi. Thank you for letting me join tonight.
Of course. Anytime. Yes. Okay, so, and Ilka's on. Hi, Ilka. And TC Networking, I don't remember who you are. If you can change your name, I don't know if you guys know how to change your name, but you can push participants and then click on your name and change it at any time. So that's really helpful for me. Oh, look at you. You did it already, Clifton and Rebecca. Awesome. Thanks. Nice to see you. All right. Okay. So I saw Kim come on. Hi, Kim. See, she's in the same city as me, and she's sitting outside.
It's like the first nice day in months.
It's
So, heck yes.
It is beautiful today. Yes. Thank you. All right, so it's already 6:02. Let's get rolling, shall we? I was just saying that, and I'll probably say this at the end too, so hopefully everybody hears, but we will be opening up after this final session. We'll be opening up the mentoring groups. So Kim is going to lead a mentoring group, right, Kim? Is that correct? Yes. And I lead a mentoring group already. And then also we have another lady, Becky, who is going to be leading a mentoring group specifically on intimacy with God. And so that's what hers is. Mine is just kind of general engaging heaven stuff. Kim, is that what yours is? General engaging heaven stuff? Okay, cool. So anyway, we'll be opening it up. So if I get too many people in my group, I'm going to pass people off to another group because I don't want it to get too overwhelming for people. I really like more intimate kind of being able to ask questions and get to know each other sort of thing. So anyway, I'm really excited to start again the intro classes. I'm going to be leading another one. Let me see. I think I'm going to do it. Hold on. I might be taking a couple-week break. I'm trying to remember the start date. I'm going to look real quick. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to start back up the beginning of April. So I'm going to start back the 4th and 5th of April. So if you guys want to, if you feel like you missed some of the first stuff or maybe it just didn't click yet or something, you're welcome to join again. Or if you want to just share it with somebody who you know that needs it, then you're welcome to do that too. But I thought I would let everybody know that I'm going to just repeat the sessions that we did. And of course, it's going to be live, so it's never always the exact same thing. And you'll know that if you've watched a Wednesday and a Thursday. So, yeah, it's a little different each time. So, okay, Birdie, I don't know, did you see that, Kim? Birdie said, since I know you, Christine and Kim, either sister would be great. I'd love to be involved in a mentoring group. Awesome. We'll get you plugged in. I will probably, we're putting together a sign-up sheet on our website, so kind of a form that you can fill out on the website, so that might be a little easier than how we have been doing it because it's been a little overwhelming at times with trying to organize everyone. So anyway, hopefully that will be really helpful in signing up for the mentoring groups. So hi, Carmen, by the way, and Chelsea and Charles. Wait, is it Chelsea and Charles, or is Chelsea just Chelsea with Charles as the last name? Chelsea? I saw you unmute, but I don't see. Okay, well, I'll call you Chelsea. If you have a man with you named Charles, then hopefully he doesn't get offended. So tonight I'm going to be talking about kingdom order and about engaging the timeline. Okay, so Kim, if you would, oh, I didn't make you a co-host. Hold on one second. There you go. If you could also maybe, do you have something to write with or anything? I think you said I can.
I can.
Okay. If you could take note of anyone who says they want to be a part of a mentoring group, it looks like there are a few, that would be nice. Thank you. I appreciate it. So anyway, today I wanted to talk about kingdom order. It's something that's really close to my heart, only because God has, what? You're shaking your head at me. Me? No. Okay. Hi, Victoria, by the way.
Sorry, Ellie was trying to push buttons. I was like, no, no, no.
This is my life every day. So anyway, yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit why I get excited about kingdom order. It's not something that I've never been a person who has been excited about order of any kind. Ask Kim. She's the order sister, and I am not. I'm the one who likes to just be free as a bird and have no sort of constraints or order. And God has shown me something completely different in the heavenly places about my purpose. And he has given me such a, it's not even a passion as much as just a complete need to have this kingdom order. He told me that I'm supposed to help establish kingdom order in the earth. And so this is something that when he first told me, I had no idea what that even meant. He started showing me through different, I don't know how to say it, through visuals and also through numbers to go with the visuals and all of that. And it was something that was really new to me, and I didn't fully understand it. I started seeing other people were teaching on the same sort of thing, and it was like, wow, okay, I really get it. And so I want to start off by saying I have had some questions recently about certain things, like about where to find certain things that we're teaching on the heavenly places in the scriptures. And some things are clearly lined out in the scriptures, and other things are simply experience and revelation from heaven. And so I just want to make sure that everybody understands that of course, I know everybody knows that the Bible was written from experience and revelation that came from the heavenly places, or just from God, who, of course, is in the heavenly places. But that's how the Bible was written, was off of these experiences and off of everything that, how God was intervening in people's lives. And so even in the book of Revelation, it was John's revelation of heaven, his heavenly experience. And so everything that is in the Bible is from revelation and experience with God. And so everything that I'm going to share with you is my experience and revelation from God. It's been confirmed over and over through many different people that we've run into. And it has been really cool to see that everybody is getting the same things. And so that's real exciting. But that being said, I want to just dive in. There are many different ways that kingdom order can be established. And when I say kingdom, I'm talking about the kingdom of heaven then being established in the earth. Okay? So, first of all, hi, Ellie. Did she say hi? Hi. Anyway, so the first thing that I think we need to talk about is kingdom order in our lives. I think it's very important to have some sort of sense of kingdom order in each of our lives. And that's why we went over framing your day. It's part of that. But the most important thing is that we understand God is absolutely the head. Jesus is the center of everything that we do. He is the only head. We're supposed to be the body. There's not supposed to be one person who is the head of anything that is within kingdom order. Okay, so always God is the head. At the same time, he has established people to lift up others. And so for a long time, we've seen in the traditional church this top-down leadership. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Anyone who's been in the church for a while has seen a top-down kind of leadership. So some come under an apostle, some come under a pastor. Most people have known about pastors being the head ever since Constantine. He established that there would be a pastor as the head and that everyone would be led by this one person. And so that is something that actually is not a biblical concept. It is something, if you look in Ephesians chapter 4, it talks about the fivefold ministry, and it talks about Jesus as the head and the apostle, prophet, evangelist, shepherd, and teacher as the body that comes around, and every one of these things to be used to build up the body until we reach the fullness of maturity. And so this is another important thing to understand, is that it's all about the until. We need to reach the process of maturity to where the fivefold ministry isn't the fullness. And we have to understand that that is for the church who is immature and growing. It is not a bad thing. It's absolutely a necessary thing, but it's something that there's a higher revelation on. And so let's just remember, there are many churches who are doing everything that they know. They're doing what they know that they can do. They're basically following the revelation that they have at the time. Just like Illy, if she goes and she, spills a box of crackers and she just leaves them on the floor and stomps them into the ground, and then you go, oh no, she's going to cry and she's going to come and need a hug because something bad happened. Right? And that's perfectly acceptable because she knows something happened that shouldn't have happened, and that's okay. Now, if Soren, my 10-year-old, spills a box of crackers and goes and stomps on them and starts crying, I'm going to say, what the heck, buddy? You need to be cleaning up those crackers, and he's going to have consequences if he goes and stomps them into the ground on purpose, And so there's a higher revelation for him because he's more mature in the faith and in his life. Okay, so for us, let's just know there are levels of revelation and we're always getting higher revelation. And so what I'm going to share with you today is a higher revelation that goes even above the fivefold ministry. It is not saying that the fivefold ministry is bad. It is only saying that there is another level. Okay, and so this kingdom order that we're going to talk about, especially with our own persons. Okay, hold on one second. I just had some girls invade my life. Ladies, what are you doing? Out. See, like this. They're just giggling. Anyway, so when we are in our life and we're trying to have kingdom order in our own personal lives, I think it's really important to have God as the head. If we have I really believe that God has established in a marriage a head who is, well, I have to say this. So we have Jesus, then we have a husband, then we have a wife. My husband and I work in a great partnership. And I'm telling you, there are certain things that I have great leadership skills in. You probably can figure that out by just me talking. But I have a natural inclination to lead. My husband has a natural inclination to serve and to follow. That's how he is. It's something one of his main spiritual gifts is service. And It's just he's not one who has been a natural born leader. I, on the other hand, am. Now, in our marriage, we work as a great partnership. But when the time comes for us to follow after what God is saying, Dustin always gets the final decision. And so I always will give my, revelation from God, my opinions on things, but there has to be someone who submits. And so for me, I submit. That is my role. Now, this actually doesn't really come into play very often because we work really well together, and he really trusts my gifts and I trust his. And so the good thing is we work together, and it's more of a partnership than it is a dictatorship, if you know what I mean.
Come on, Spirit. No.
What was that?
No.
Oh, I don't know who it is. I guess I should probably mute everyone. I didn't do that tonight. All right.
Sorry, that was me.
That's okay. We love you.
That was Carol. I was hollering at the dog.
No problem. All right. Well,
Hi, everyone.
Okay, I'm putting everyone on mute because I
Thank you.
So yeah. Anyway. All right. Excuse me. So anyway, but beyond, what did I do? I feel like there's still something happening and I'm not seeing it. I feel like it's me. Is this possible? I don't know. Well, I'm sorry if you guys are hearing something. I don't even know anyone who's not muted except for me. If you find that you're not muted, maybe you should mute yourself. I'll just say that. Okay. Okay, who is that? I don't even know what's happening here. Kim, can you look and see if there's somebody who isn't muted that I'm not seeing? So strange.
It's just you.
I have no wind, and I'm inside, and no kids even in the room again. Okay, well, sorry. Anyway, so kingdom order, back to that. In our own life, we have certain things that God has asked us to do. As the royal priesthood, he's asking us to grow in maturity and step up into his authority that he has given us. Okay, so authority only comes through intimacy. So if you are starting out in intimacy with the Lord, he probably won't give you the kind of authority that someone who has been walking for 40 years in intimacy with God will have. And it doesn't have to do with years all the time, okay? You can grow really quickly in the Lord, and there might be someone who's gone 40 years and not grown very fast at all, okay? But you understand the idea. So when we grow in responsibility and authority, we need to intentionally take that responsibility. When I say that, I mean we need to go to him and say, God, I'm ready for the responsibility. At least I think I am. So could you please give me some more responsibility? And when we do that, he will open up new areas to us that we need to then govern. Okay? And so just like a governor will have a certain area of influence, a certain territory, if you will, so does a person. So we have certain influence in our lives. That's why we have these mountains with 7 mountains underneath, right? Our main mountain is our life, and we have 7 areas of influence under that. And so these areas of influence, these areas of influence are just things that God reveals to us that we are supposed to govern. Okay, so maybe you don't have a lot of intimacy yet or responsibility. Maybe you just haven't taken the responsibility, even though you've had a lot of intimacy. And so if you haven't said, God, I want to step up and start. Wow, somebody just shared their screen. Hi, Kathy, you just shared your screen. Let me see if I can get out of that. Not really sure how that happened. Uh-oh, I don't know what I just did. Kathy, I don't know if you see this, but could you, oh wait, I think I may have, okay, look, Okay, I think I just made it better. Did I make it better, everybody? Yes? Okay. I know that was an accident. That happens all the time. So, okay, good. Thank you. Anyway, if we are governing our own lives, then we have these certain areas of influence that we need to tend to. And so, for instance, for me, one of my areas of influence that I tend to is my business mountain. Okay, so my business mountain. I don't know if you guys know much about me. Some of you do, some of you don't. But I have actually many different streams of income. Okay, so I have my main business mountain, and then I have 7 mountains under those. Okay, not all 7 of them are functioning at this time. I have, like, let's see, 1, 2, 5, 6 streams of income. Okay, so right now I have 6 mountains under there that are functioning. I know that God has shown me that I need to have 7, so I'm just waiting for when He wants to open up what the 7th will be. But for my business mountain, in order to tend that mountain, what I do is every day I go and when I say I look over it, I don't always see well in the spirit, but I go and I spend some time on the mountain, and I try to pay attention to what is happening there. And I might see some sort of problems. And if I see a problem, I usually see like the enemy trying to sneak up, or I might see walls that are built, something like that. And I try to tend to that. So if I see the enemy sneaking up, I might have a sense that I can go and pull out a sword and chop the enemy. Or I might just be like pushing them off the mountain, or I might feel like I need to go to court over it. And so either way, I just try to pay attention in the spirit to what God is telling me I need to do. And I go and I deal with it. I also will release favor over my mountain because most of my businesses have to do with, well, receiving favor from people. And so, maybe some people just trade their time for money, but I'm not into that sort of thing. And so I always, it has to do with favor. So I release favor over my mountain. I release provision over my mountain. So I will literally get provision from God. Sometimes I see it in like gold coins or something. Other times I don't even know what it is. I'm just releasing it. Okay. So by faith, I'm releasing this provision over my mountain. There are times when I feel led to send out this blue light that calls people to me who are supposed to be with me. And so I will call people to me who are supposed to partner with me in business or come in and buy from me or whatever it might be. So this is how I tend to that mountain, right? Every mountain you have will be different. You may or may not have a business mountain. You might be a stay-at-home mom and you don't have any businesses except for all you do is you have your own ministry, you have your own children, you have your family. Who knows what your mountains are? But I have a family mountain as well. So these are things that I tend to. Everybody's mountains will be different. This is not the same as, what Lance Wallnau talks about with the 7 mountains of influence of society. So it's a totally different thing. This is I'm talking about your individual mountains, okay? I absolutely agree with the 7 mountains of society, but this is not the same thing. So anyway, but what it is, I don't know if you notice, it's the same concept, and it's because it's kingdom order. This sort of 7 mountain thing is what God has established in heaven. And so when people are seeing this, they're seeing what God has established. And so just note, everybody will see that same thing. If you have people talking about mountains, they're always going to see 7. And they might see like 7 beneath that or whatever, they might say, oh, they're really 49 or whatever, but it's going to be like that. And so anyway, this is something that every day we should govern our lives and we should have kingdom order in our lives. And so if you're living in a place where you feel like there's chaos, you're not really doing any kind of governing, there's not going to be any kingdom order in your life. Also, I think it's really important to know what the church should look like in the earth, okay? And so this is something I really wanted to talk about, was establishing blueprints, and that has to do with kingdom order, okay? blueprints can be in ministry, they can be in business, they can have all sorts of different reasons, I suppose. I most often have seen them in ministry and business personally. So, that's what I'm familiar with. But in ministry, what God has shown me is that there needs to be a bench of 3 and a bench of 7. Okay. So here's, Kim, do you have blueprints on your computer? Kind of. Okay. If you can look and see, and then we'll show it later if you find it, okay? Anyway, so let me give you an example. At the source, Kim and I serve at the source. We have a blueprint that God has given us. And honestly, we didn't see other blueprints before we got the blueprint. And what's been really cool is to see so many other people have gotten blueprints that are so similar. And this is why it's this kingdom order that God is showing us that needs to be established in the earth. And so what happens is you have this, say, okay, it's a ministry. Like for us, we call it the Hub or the Apostolic Resource Center. And it's called the Source, right? So this Apostolic Resource Center, it is a place where many different things God has given us of places of influence or things of influence, okay? So Kim might have to help me out with all the mountains, but we have a mountain of, let's see, training and mentoring is one. Another one is word. Another one is healing. Another one is resources. Let's see. Another one is worship and intercession. Is that right? On that mountain? Yeah. Let's see. 5. I can't remember the other ones. Kim, what are the other mountains? Do you remember? Missions. Missions. Okay, I can't hear you, so if you could unmute, that'd be lovely.
How about now?
Yay!
Okay.
Missions. Okay, so that's 6.
Hang on. We have resources, mission, healing. We have the word mountain. We have mentoring. We have worship and intercession, and kingdom order.
Oh, duh. Kingdom order. The
one you're teaching on right now.
Of course. This is my life. And so anyway, so we have these 7 mountains of influence, right? So God has shown us that we need to have benches of 3 over the main mountain. And this bench, this is really interesting. I say over because it's really not over at all. In the heavenly realms, you see things as over, but what happens here is we're like a complete reflection. And so everything is, instead of top down, it's like a bottom up. And so every bench is basically on the bottom, and they're helping hold up and equip the other things. And so it's not a, like we've seen a top-down kind of leadership in the church in the past, right? And so it's a little bit different, where these are the people who serve and help lift up the others to help them be equipped. And so anyway, so we have a bench of 3 at the Hub. And so Kim and me and another person were on this bench. And what we do is we intentionally go to the heavenly realms to get revelation on things, to do legislation in the courts, anything that's needed for the outworking of the blueprint. And so God will give us things that we need to do to help the other mountains get established or start functioning. Okay. Sorry, I just saw one of the chat things that Pat will have to repent for jealousy of our weather. Anyway, so thanks, Kim. Okay, so here you see the different mountains here. This lady here who has a funny look on her face is another person on our bench of 3. Anyway, so these are the mountains, and what we do is we try to help establish these mountains and find the people who are called to these different mountains. And so there are lots of different things that go in each of these because, like, for instance, the Healing Mountain has 7 mountains under that. Okay, so here's like the main mountain with 7 things, and then here these have 7 mountains, and even under these they might have 7 more. Okay, so it can basically grow and grow and grow. God will reveal more and more and more to the blueprint. So even if you start out and you see that you have, like, okay, he's shown me 7 mountains. Usually we see them in circles. Okay, this is kind of how God reveals it a lot of times. Anyway, so you see these, and you might only get this at the beginning. And then he'll go, oh, but in missions, we're going to have 7 other things that go under missions. And then pretty soon, God will reveal the people who are supposed to be the bench over the missions mountain. And so what happens is we have this bench of 3 at the hub, and then we have a bench of 7 that is one person from each of these mountains. Okay, so this is where Kingdom Order comes into play. It's this bench of 3, bench of 7, and it's all to make a perfect 10, which is government, to outwork the ministry. And so we'll see 3 and 7, and then even on teaching, there'll be a bench of 3 and then a bench of 7 with each of their 7 mountains. Does that make sense? I hope that's a yes. Okay, Kim, you want to unshare your screen? Is that a thing? Thanks. Anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about with Kingdom Order. We've seen a lot of blueprints get established. And one thing that I wanted to say about blueprints and establishing Kingdom Order is all of the blueprints overlap. And so you never have a blueprint who's all on their own. You see, okay, I wish now that was still back up. But anyway, like the teaching mountain, for instance, is the word mountain. It's the same one. So this word mountain will overlap with someone else's blueprint, and they'll have a word mountain, and we'll work together as the body of Christ in this, right? And so each of these things will have overlapping blueprints so that we're all connected. And this is how everything is connected all over the world. And so everyone's blueprint is connected to somebody else's. And this is how the body of Christ is supposed to be connected and not all divided in establishing your own kingdom. It's all about establishing the kingdom of God all over the earth by partnering together. And so anyway, this is the exciting thing about establishing Kingdom Order is you see this reflection from heaven into the earth. And so when we see a reflection, then we have the ability to see the Holy Spirit fill that, because you just see that when heaven recognizes something in the earth that looks like it, it comes to it. You know that this is how it is in your own life. That when you're starting to look like heaven, you get more of the Holy Spirit coming in, you get more divine connections, you get more revelation. It just starts happening. And so it's a beautiful thing to see how, in the Bible when he says that if you start walking in my ways, I will give you charge of my house and charge of my courts. And so this is a really special thing, that as we start walking in his ways, which is God's ways are not just rules and regulations, as hopefully everyone in this group knows. It's about his ways in the way that he works. And so this is why I have people who come to me and say, so Chris, why do I have to go to the courts? Like, why do I have to do that? Can't I just go and tell God I'm sorry and not do that anymore? And I'm like, well, you could do that. There's nothing wrong with it, except for I want to be a part of walking in God's ways. And if this is the way that things actually function, I want to be walking in that. And so I know that I'm going to get more victory anyway when I'm walking in his ways, the way that he has established things to work, because then I don't have the work of the enemy in my life, because the enemy's judged. I've never had that experience before.
Well, and Christine, also, I would say it opens you up to be able to advance in the kingdom and not to prosper and get better and higher, but to be able, as you're working in his ways, then you also naturally are working in his will. And the closer you can get into walking side by side with him and in his will, the more kingdom work you can do for him. I mean, it's in Jesus's prayer, his kingdom come, his will be done, right? So I think that's a big part of that as well.
Absolutely. That's good. Yeah, I really have been excited to see how much when God starts empowering us for his authority and he starts giving us more responsibility, and this is good and it's hard, but it's lovely. It's the best ministry ever. I don't know if any of you have been part of the ministry, but I've been a part of the ministry for many, many years, and there has never been a more rewarding ministry than actually being a part of outworking all of this in the earth and seeing people walk in the heavenly places and grow in maturity, grow in responsibility. You know, you don't have people just going and trying to feed off of somebody else. And that's really cool, because what has happened for many years for me is people would come to a Bible study that I'm leading, and all they're doing is trying to feed off of me. What is she going to tell us today that has to do with the Bible so that I can somehow get fed, right? Well, you're not going to get fed anything with nourishment from me personally. You're only going to get that from Jesus. And so the cool thing about seeing people growing in responsibility is that they are starting to walk with Jesus and have him be the teachers and him be the leader. And they're starting to get revelation from heaven that is a more powerful thing than anything that any man could give. And so as you know, wonderful as it is that I'm teaching this class, the best thing is when I get these testimonies of people who say, oh my goodness, you wouldn't believe what I experienced today in the heavenly places. This is how God is working, and I've seen all this fruit. It's like so exciting, because that's the stuff that's real growth. That's the real authority. That's the real responsibility people are starting to walk in, to where then the kingdom will be established in the earth just like he promised. And it's anyway, there's nothing better. I think there's nothing better than all this. It's wonderful. Just to be with him, to be able to walk closely with him, and to be able to see his ways come to pass in everybody, every person that you see, like everyone on this screen that I'm looking at. I've gotten to know pieces of you that have been so beautiful, and I have seen it mainly in the heavenly places. And when you see it there, it's empowering to even see the connection that God gives us, and to be able to see, wow, there's something real that's happening here that is filling everybody with the Spirit. And the Spirit is starting to overcome people in a way that they're starting to walk in his ways for them, in their destinies, in a way that's never happened before. And then you see other people being able to grow from everyone else's walk in their destinies. Anyway, it's just real exciting. I think that this is good stuff. And I really feel like we all need to continue to grow and to seek kingdom order in our lives, in our ministries, in everything that we do. I don't know if you guys have a specific ministry that you're attached to, but God has given each of you a ministry. I know this. He's given us all a ministry just because we are his disciples. And so no matter if you have a specific name for a ministry, I know that he has a specific purpose for you. And so I encourage you to either seek a blueprint in the heavenly places, or seek someone else's blueprint to see if you're attached to it. Because like for me, I told you I don't receive blueprints, but God showed me, that I was attached to this blueprint. And so this is one blueprint that I'm attached to, and I'm supposed to start out working in. And so you can do that from all over the place. I have a guy, he's not on tonight, he really wanted to be, but I have a guy in Texas who felt really attached to our blueprint. And he's starting to work with us on our resources mountain, he's doing web work for us and all sorts of stuff. Obviously, you guys know that from anywhere, you could teach a class or you could do a mentoring group or whatever through Zoom, just like I am. So it doesn't mean that you have to be in the same physical location. but you need to just seek, where is it that I'm attached to? And what can I use my gifts for? God, are you calling me to this healing mountain? Or are you like, actually, I just have a homeless ministry that I feel like I'm supposed to do? If you were in Wichita, I'd say, hey, let me connect you with this homeless ministry that we're attached to, even though it's not exactly part of our blueprint. They're attached to our blueprint. They're, the overlap is happening. And so we can say, hey, here's something you can plug into. And so it's a good thing to help when you have this kingdom order starting to be established. It's just exciting to see how many people we can connect across the globe to different things. And Kim, would you talk a little bit about the different ministries that we have seen, at least in our area, and how they're attached to us, even though they're not our blueprint?
How so? Like the homeless ministry and stuff?
I was thinking like Blue Sky Ranch and things like that.
Sure. Well, there are different ministries that we have kind of started calling Freedom Outposts that aren't necessarily established churches, but they're ministries that are established for certain reasons. One is a boys ranch. They do equine therapy and work with troubled boys who have hard home lives. They received a blueprint for that, but it's not to start a church. It's to be this ministry to this certain group of people. There's another ranch, and this woman that we're very closely connected with, she was called to give up her home to be a ministry to women who are getting out of sex trafficking, and kind of recovery for that. It's called Hope Ranch, and that's connected with us. Like, we're connected closely with the people who established it. We're connected very much with their vision. Like, it connects with our missions vision and, well, our missions mountain, I guess you would say. There are other ministries like this homeless ministry. The pastor actually lives in my backyard. It's kind of funny. But they're people who we met randomly before we even knew this was a blueprint, before we started engaging in heaven. We met them. They were immediate family. Like, within the first 2 minutes of meeting them, we were praying together for this vision of what the source has become, this blueprint. I mean, it's really awesome. And so they're this homeless ministry, and they obviously have a different piece in this. We don't have a homeless ministry, but it's so closely connected with who we are, and we're able to then pour into them, just like the boys ranch and then the sex trafficking ranch. We have a passion for them to be able to do the outworking of their own ministries. And so we get connected with these people, and it's just so interesting because, when we first got the blueprint, and I'm using quotes because that's not what we called it for a long time. It was just this vision that God gave us, and it was big, and it was citywide. He told us it was going to go global, which was a scary thing, at least for me, because I don't tend to like to be in the spotlight. But we have this vision in our heart and this blueprint, and we have a passion for it because it was birthed from him. He gave us this passion. And so as we're meeting these other ministries in the city and even beyond, they're speaking the same language. This is what's interesting. When we find that blueprints connect, it's like you start speaking the same language and you're like, you get it. You get what I got, and this connects, and it's cool. It's really cool to see. And one of the pictures that the Lord gave me early on was, there's this big picture, and we all talk about big picture, but it's like this big giant jigsaw puzzle. So God has the big picture, and we're all his little pieces, and he's connecting us, right? And we all fit together somehow. Everybody fits with somebody else, and it makes this big picture. And it's kind of this beautiful thing when it all starts coming together.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
I get excited about that stuff. And especially I was thinking about there's this apostolic center that we are attached to called Kingdom Life. And they, especially where we overlap a lot, is in the Healing Mountain. And so especially in the inner healing mountain of the Healing Mountain. And so I have wanted to talk about that, and I always forget, but there have been several people who really have come to me and talked to me about how much they need inner healing from things, from trauma specifically, or, I mean, lots of things, but any kind of trauma for you. It could be abuse, or it could be a loss, or whatever. If you have that kind of thing and you don't know where to go, we have a phenomenal group of people who do inner healing stuff that has to do with the courts and encountering God in all of the trauma. And so anyway, it's wonderful. And I'm really excited about all the people who've been who felt like they've been connected to our blueprint in this way. And so Kingdom Life is one of them, and they do God encounters. We have some other people who do freedom ministries, and other people who do sozo. It's all this inner healing stuff. And so anyway, we'd love to help people out. If that's you and you know that you need some of that, we have great people to connect you to help you with that sort of thing. So anyway, that's really all I wanted to talk about that has to do with Kingdom Order. I would love to have a couple questions just about Kingdom Order before I go into engaging the timeline, because it's a totally different subject, but I've had several people ask about it recently. And so I said that I would talk about it today. So anyway, questions on Kingdom Order? Birdie says yes. Okay, why don't you unmute, Birdie?
I want to ask a question. If you can speak to the fivefold ministry along with Kingdom Order. So you have the hub of 3, and how are you, because you're within the source, I'm understanding that's like your church name, something like that?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay. Or do you all attend a different church and the source is a ministry?
That's an interesting question. Okay, so we are a ministry. We believe that we are all part of the church, so we are not establishing a church, if you will. We're just trying to establish the church through our ministry. We do have a disciple community there, so I suppose that would be what you're talking about when you're talking about church, probably. So we do attend different, I don't know if you would call it services or whatever, groups and all sorts of stuff, worship and word and growing and all of that. So we do that at the source, but we try to connect different churches as the body of Christ. But here's where the fivefold comes in. Yes, the fivefold ministry is still important, like I said. It's just not the highest revelation. But what happens is everybody's gifts, you find the fivefold ministry starting to outwork, especially in the 7 mountains. That okay, I told you there's a bench of 3 and a bench of 7, right?
Correct.
So in the bench of 7, you will see people from the fivefold ministry all at work in there. And so the real work of the bench of 3 is to go into the heavenlies to receive legislation and to get revelation on the blueprint and anything that the bench of 7 needs to outwork the ministry. So the bench of 7 is over the 7 mountains, right? And so those people are doing a lot of, they are definitely evangelists, shepherds, teachers, apostles. You often will have these people overlapping as well. So just like you have all of the APEST, you have as well people on the bench of 3 who might be a part of the bench of 7, or they might not be a part of the bench of 7. They might be a part of one of the benches of 3 on a different mountain as well. It depends on what they're really called to. Like for me, I'm really called to kingdom government. And so Kingdom Order is like my favorite mountain because that's what I really feel called to the most. I also, of course, do a lot of stuff on the mentoring and training mountain, as you guys can figure out by me doing this class. Okay, so I'm definitely part of that too. So I'm called to 2 different benches on that. Here's what I really believe, that when you get the until that happens in Ephesians 4, until the coming of maturity, what happens is when we grow in maturity, the reason the fivefold isn't the fullness is because when we start becoming one with Jesus, we start acting like him. He was the fullness of the fivefold ministry. He had all of those in him. And so when we start becoming more one with him and we start to act more like him, we start functioning in all 5 of these things. Maybe not all at the same time, but we start doing that. And so for me, I used to be like total prophet. Okay, ask anybody. Chris is the prophet. She's not a teacher. She's not an evangelist. And I'm telling you now, all of a sudden, I'm walking in all of that. And I'm not saying I'm like at full maturity. Please understand. But I'm way more mature than I used to be. And what has happened is as I've become more one with Jesus, he starts showing up and showing out in these different areas. And so that's where you get the fullness. And so anyway, I don't know if that even, if that addressed your question much at all, but I really do. We always talk about how about the fivefold is specifically in the bench of 7. So.
Yes, in our church, we're just, I would say about 5 years ago, started the Courts of Heaven. And it kind of stalled because of some of the leadership. And I'm in a traditional pastor church. We have lots of outreaches, and my husband and I are very involved. We've been with the church almost 40 years. It's an interdenominational, charismatic, tongue-talking. We have Lance Walno in our church and stuff like that. So anyway. That kind of thing. So it's a word church. But anyway, on the mission arm of it, my husband and I have definitely gone full force. As you said that you were called, that's exactly what people call me, as a prophetess or whatever. I've traveled the nations. I've been a teacher because I've got both my husband and I are ordained ministers, and we also teach. And so I've gone into World Mission Foundation. Our friends are in Thailand for 30 some years, and we're very connected to them. So I kind of know the hub. My question now that you know all this information is, it's kind of a sensitive topic, because when I even mention something about Courts of Heaven, I can get shut down in a moment.
Oh dear.
And not the ones I'm talking about Southeast Asia. The hub in Southeast Asia is Thailand. And then we have several countries that are influenced by Thailand all the way around. They have a big training center there. And my husband and I have lived there overseas for years at a time and stuff like that. We come back and forth out of Canada. Anyway, so that's not, I'm talking locally here in Edmonton, Alberta. There's a real split kind of down the middle. Some people find it flaky when you start talking about Courts of Heaven, and I don't know, someone gave a talk on dragons and all kinds of imagery, and people got really upset with that. Any counsel? Or is that something mentoring should do?
Oh, well, I think that is a good question in a mentoring group, but I mean, we can talk to that briefly. Actually, I think, Kim, if you could, do you have that piece of legislation that God showed you about the wheat and the chaff? Oh, I think she may have said, let me find it. Oh, look, I'm a good lip reader. Yeah, so there is something that God has been, and this is, even though this was released to Kim, this has been said 1,000 times, and I'm sure you'll resonate with this. But it's a word that God gave us about the separation that's going to be happening, and we have already started to see it happen. And it's really it's difficult It's really difficult, but it's really necessary. And so this is basically the word that God has given us about it. And so do you see it, Kim? I don't know what you're saying.
I said I'm looking.
Okay.
Or I have to look through my Evernote, so bear
You
with
can
me.
search in there, just so you know.
Not if it's a picture of a written journal entry.
Doggone. Okay, never mind. All right. Well, I'll let her speak to that in a little bit. And I see, do you have a diagram of this? A diagram of the bench of 3 and bench of 7. I am not sure. I need to search my Evernote for that too. Hold on. Okay, I'm sorry, you guys are probably annoyed with all this searching and pausing. If you have more questions, why don't you just put it in the chat box and we can get to those too.
Okay, I think I found it kind of. It's all among other things. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Well, okay, are you ready for me?
Yeah.
Okay. This is just some of this. I'll just start at kind of a middle point because the rest of it was kind of a personal thing that the Lord was speaking to me, and the rest of it was for the body. He said, take this time to be family and love one another. There's no rush in all of this, but once it starts, it will pour out like rushing water, so I need to ensure all the pieces are in place. Thank you for your faithfulness. I was going to this national meeting, so he told me to go again. He said, help to release the spirit of unity among your state and all the others. Open a gateway for my spirit to flow freely through the nation once more. There will have to be division to have unity. The wheat must be separated from the chaff. Let me see. And there was another.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm all over the place with this because he just has given me a lot about the wheat and chaff. And so I have it in all different notes. And a lot of times it's when I'm praying by myself, and so I just write it in a journal.
That's okay. Keep looking for it. But I'll kind of give the gist of it, I guess. That what has started happening is there has been a separation in the church of those who have been seeking God, but also through the spirit of religion. Okay, so most everybody here probably recognizes the spirit of religion. It is sadly really rampant in the church today. And you'll see people who care more about the spirit of religion than they do about following the spirit of the Lord. And of course, we want that to just be broken off. It would be lovely if that wasn't even a thing. But what God is saying is that there will be a separation of the wheat and the chaff, those who are truly following after him and those who have been following after him in name and deed. And so I think that what is happening, especially with this, all of this heavenly realm stuff, not just courts of heaven, but everything that has to do with that. And what you were talking about specifically, you know, all the imagery and with the dragons and stuff like that, that's all of the heavenly realms talk is what it sounds like. This is the truth of what Jesus came to do, was reconcile the church to God through the heavenly realms. That's what he came to do. He said, the kingdom of heaven's at hand. He's like, this is the deal, guys. And so what has happened is over the years, there has been this getting off track until we're totally so far away from the truth that we don't even recognize the truth anymore. And so those of us, one thing that he did tell me, I'm going to pull up this piece of legislation because I know that it's it's something that really applies. But I love it, and it's a promise from God that He gave us. Let me find it real fast, okay? Oh, this is so good. Okay, I'm going to read this. This is a piece of legislation that God gave me and a couple other people. It was at the very end of 2016, so it was right at the turn of the year, a year ago. And it said, "This is the release of revelation from heaven to earth, an opening of minds and hearts for truth and revelation. This is an everlasting covenant between God the Father and His chosen people. An awakening is released and will continue into every generation. People who desire the fire of God in their heart will have it lit. Those who have been dry or dead will be ignited by this holy fire, unquenchable fire. This will bring forth the harvest of the last days. Unbridled passion between God and His people will be released now. The judgment of all principalities who've been blocking the everlasting door of passion and revelation is released for all time. No longer shall the enemy have control, but all authority and control of this everlasting door is given to God's ecclesia and the angels who serve this ecclesia." And so anyway, I found this so encouraging because it's about those who have that passion for seeking after God will have that fire lit in them. And so I think it's really important that it isn't a condemnation kind of word, but it's a word that has to do with anyone who really has that desire for Him in their heart, even if they haven't known how to get it, is going to have that lit in these times. And so it's a very encouraging thing, but I will say that what God has shown me is that there has to be this separation from the old way of church, if you know what I mean. And it's a coming, and the funny thing is what we're talking about is actually ancient ways, but it's this old to us way of church, I should say, because this old way of church is doing church and not being the church. And it's a whole different thing that we've had people who go to attend things and they go and they want to stay in their old ways. They're boxing in God. I've been one of those people. I'm not, I'm not trying to condemn here. I totally have done it. In fact, it wasn't that long ago when I was doing something and I thought I had totally had God out of the box. And all of a sudden, he was showing something that was so out of my realm of theology that I'm like, God, I don't even know how I can teach this, because it's like, I have you in this box. And I realized God is so much bigger than my box. He's so much bigger than your box. He's so much bigger than the box that the church has put him in. And most of the time, we don't even realize we've done it. It's that telltale sign of that spirit of religion, because we don't recognize it in ourselves. And so anyway, it's a very hard thing. And I do think that unfortunately you're going to it's not unfortunate, because God will reward your faithfulness, but you have to stay true to what He has revealed to you and not back down and not try to cover it up, because I did that. And I was trying to mesh the old and the new together to try to have some sort of peace and not offend people or be too weird for them. And so I hid what was happening to me in the heavenly places. And I was trying to pray over people with old language. And I was like, okay, how can I make it seem like I'm just praying when I'm really going to the courts right now? Okay, so I'm just kind of use this language a little bit. And I was trying to be tactful. And what God told me is that I was hiding His truth. And it was hard for me to take, because I want to be someone who puts the real truth out. And I want to be someone who shows the real spirit of God, and not someone who thinks that God is too offensive. And so anyway, it's hard for me, because I have had this fear of man for a long time that God has had to shed off of me, and is continuing, I think, to shed off of me. But I can't care if I have people who are going, wait, where's that in the Bible? Okay, because this is what people do. And Moses didn't have anything to go off of when he had this crazy experience with God. He didn't have anything to say, hey, but wait, where's that in the Bible to test it? It was the whole huge experience with God that was life-changing, that changed the entire history of the church. And this is important that we understand. He's still the same God who works like that. And he can still come and totally wreck our lives in a good way that will change everything for generations. And so anyway, okay, I don't know how I got way off like that, but I get excited. Kim, yes, go ahead.
Okay, I found some of this stuff, and it speaks to this as well. So I have 2 things to read, and then I promise I'll be done with it. This is what he said to me. And this was for the body. This was not for me personally. I'm asking you to step into the fullness of what I've called you to. It starts here and expounds out. I will pour out my spirit like I said, when your hearts are truly turned towards mine and fully submitted. Only you, the people, have been standing in the way of a breakout. Proclaim my name freely and openly. Declare my name and attributes into the atmosphere. Work together as my one body, my one church, and you will see my kingdom come. Don't let man's opinion hinder my will being done. Once I pour out my spirit, you need to be ready to go because it won't wait for you. Hang on for the ride and I'll show you the world as it's never been seen before. We will break new ground. And then, in regards to the wheat and the chaff, he told me the wheat are those who are abiding, the chaff are those who are striving. He said, I have no use for those who have no use for me. I need those who are partnering with me to see my kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. You are righteous and true and will be known as the sons of the one true God. Wave your flag for all to see. Strike the ground to shake the nation. Abide in me, and I will abide in you.
That's good. Okay, so I just saw Connie said, can we get a copy of that word? So good. So why don't you, if you feel comfortable, oh wait, you're muted again.
I'm sorry. I'll have to type it out. Some of it's handwritten and some of it is not. So I'll type it out and then I'll send it to Chris to put in the Facebook page.
There you go. Perfect.
Okay.
Kim doesn't do Facebook. All right. Sounds good. Okay, so I saw up here further, I hope I'm not missing stuff. And by the way, Bella, I could not find our diagram of that stuff. So I'll try to get it for you and post it, okay? I know that we have another group that meets on Thursday nights just for the hub. And we have a lot of us share resources all together. And we're trying to get it all into one folder in Evernote, but we're not there yet. So anyway, I saw that Connie said, just started my business, but have not gotten any success with that. I have not engaged my business mountain over it yet, or yet over it. Any tips? Really, I would just ask Jesus to take you to your business mountain and just do what you feel led to do. I mean, it's really that easy. I know a lot of people want specifics, but he will lead you to do different things every day. Just try to get a sense for what's going on your mountain. If you're not having favor, if you're feeling blockages, he might show you go to the court of accusations and hear what those blockages are, and then you can get rid of them, you know? So I would just recommend doing that and being led by him in that way. But just ask him to take you and he'll lead you through it. I know for sure. Yeah, and if it's confusing the first time, do it again. This is, I think a lot of people, they just go, I don't know what I'm doing, and give up. And you really have to just submit yourself to the Lord to be led by him, and he will absolutely show you what you need to see when you need to see it. And so if it's not your time to govern that, you know, he will lead you somewhere else to do something else. And so just rest in him and know that if you have a business, for instance, and maybe you haven't received a blueprint for it, or you haven't been governing it, ask him for those things. You know, say, hey, do you have a blueprint for me? He might say yes, he might say no, you might hear nothing, you know, but whatever it is, keep going and keep trying. But more than anything, rest in his provision for you and make sure that whatever you're doing isn't from a place of striving, but a place of rest. Okay, let's see. Good. I'm trying to make sure that. Okay, Terry said, what do you think about the fellowship days between Saturday and Sunday? Terry, can you unmute yourself? And could you be a little more specific so I know what you're talking about, please?
Hey, okay, you know how most people say you work, the father worked, did all his work and he rested on the Sabbath. So that's how some people say that fellowshipping or going to church on the Sabbath, and some go on Sunday. What do you think about that?
Oh, well, I'll tell you, I have personal convictions on the Sabbath. I don't know if it's a solid theology or anything, but I will say what he's done with me is he has shown me how extremely important it is to keep that day set aside for him. And so actually I do, he has shown me personally to do Friday at sundown to Saturday at sundown, which is the traditional Jewish Sabbath. But I can't say that it is something that he said, hey, you need to keep the traditional Jewish Sabbath, but it happens to be that time. So maybe that's why he's leading me to that time. I don't know that for sure. I'm just being obedient to him on what he's wanting me to do. And so for me, what he's shown me that I need to do is keep that time to not work and to keep focused on him and to rest and to have fellowship time with my family. And when I say family, I mean like more than just my immediate family, but that has to be really important for us. And so, as you know, I do ministry all the time. And so I'm having fellowship with believers constantly, okay? It's pretty much nonstop. And so I don't really struggle with the whole when do you meet together with the body thing. So that's not my deal. But for me, I have to say, okay, my business, and even I don't even do normal ministry on the Sabbath unless he leads me to do it. I don't schedule any kind of ministry sessions, any teaching times, anything like that, because for me, that is my work. I work for the Lord, and so that to me is work, even though I want to serve him no matter what. So if he tells me to do something, I do it. The same thing with my business. There have been times when, we'll have a conference or something twice a year on a Saturday, and God tells me to go. And so I will go to those sort of things and do that if he tells me to. But if he doesn't tell me to, I don't do it. And so it's very important to me that I keep that, because for me, I get way off track if I don't. And so I also emotionally can't handle everything if I don't have that time. I really believe he did make that for us, and it's not just for him, it's also for us. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it personally. Ilka says, I'm Jewish, believe in Messiah Yeshua. Yay! I keep Shabbat as you do, knowing that he is my rest. Awesome. I used to attend a Messianic church myself, and it was really special to me. I really loved that time. I would say, unfortunately, the group that I was with, they definitely had the spirit of religion. And so it was kind of difficult because a lot of it had to do with keeping the law. And it wasn't as much about Jesus fulfilling the law, if you know what I mean. And so every group is different. I don't ever put all of anyone in a certain group. But for me, the group we're with, we don't have a name of what kind of Christians we are. We just love Jesus and, go for him. And so anyway, that's what we do. And we just kind of go with our own convictions about what God's telling us to do. So for me, Sabbath is Friday at sundown to Saturday at sundown, but I recognize not everyone has those same convictions. So yeah.
Okay, so back on that same question. So you rest on the Sabbath was Friday sundown to
Saturday sundown. Oh, Terry's muted. That's why. Terry, unmute. I can't hear you. Oh, well, Terry, I can't hear anymore. You muted yourself by accident, I think. Anyway. Okay, real quick. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Okay, so what I was saying is, he probably will say, ask Jesus. But
response, you know me well.
yeah, so about going to church on Sunday, I don't know, is it wrong or it's right?
That definitely is an Ask Jesus answer, but I'm sure it's different for every person. For me, we go, I would say, to church, but like I said, our church, we don't believe we're ever going to church. We are the church, and so we gather in different places at different times all the time. So for me, what we're doing here is church.
Okay.
This is as much church as going to a building with people in your local area. So this is, for me, church. Also, what I do on Sunday mornings and Sunday afternoons is church. What I do on Thursday afternoons is church. What I do on, I can name a lot of times that I go to church, if you will. But this is it. That's why I say yes, ask Jesus, because it has to do with your own convictions and what he's telling you to be a part of. I mean, for me, I minister everywhere I go. And so even things that I go to attend, I always end up ministering, and not really on purpose, but everyone's like, oh, Chris, by the way, come up here. And so this happens all the time. Right, Kim? I mean, it's true. And so anyway, for me, church is gathering with believers. And I really believe that that's what it's supposed to be like. Yeah. So sorry, I'm not giving you a yes, do it. No, don't. I don't really have answers like that typically anyway. So yes, thanks, Terry. Okay, so I will say, let me talk about time real fast. We have 15 minutes before I want to engage in heaven together, because I always want to leave a good half an hour for engaging in heaven at least. So engaging the timeline. I had questions about this. So I don't remember which group I was in when we talked about this. So if it wasn't this group, I'm going to just kind of start at the beginning a little bit. When we were talking about the different places in heaven, there is a place that is the timeline. And so this is different than being ruled by the sun and the moon. We know that we are over all of these things, right? Because we are living from a higher order, which is in heaven. And so heaven isn't ruled by the sun and the moon like the earth is. And when I say the earth actually shouldn't be. In the Bible, it talks about how the sun and the moon will be judged for what they've done. Now think about that. That means something different than I'd ever thought of before. Because I'm like, what could they possibly do that could be sinful? And it's basically because they are establishing their government over us. And so any of us who come under the timeline of the earth, it's a lower order than the timeline in heaven. And so when we go and engage the timeline in heaven, that can just overrule anything that happens on the earth. Okay, so the timeline in heaven is a place where everything, it's a substance. Time is a substance, and it's not a, something you see on your watch that shows you, I don't know, you guys know what your watches are ruled by. It's different on every watch because some are ruled by gravity and all of that, which is crazy. So anyway, you can just understand that that is fake. It's something that was established in the earth through man, and it wasn't established by God. So yes, he created the sun and the moon and the stars and the earth, of course, and he did have certain days that he did things. But what he has said is that we need to redeem the times. And so any time that has been lost or any time that has not been working in your favor, you can actually govern over that. And so when we engage the timeline, we just say, God, will you take us to the timeline? Jesus, that's what I like to do is say, Jesus, will you take me to the timeline? I just visualize it, and he shows me that you can go to different times in the past or in the future. I only go where he shows me I can go. So I don't usually just decide, hey, I want to do that unless I'm feeling led to, okay? But I'm pretty sensitive in the spirit, so if I try to do something and he says no, I know it. So I don't ever do things that I'm not supposed to do because I'm very sensitive to if I'm not supposed to. I just stop immediately. But when I go and I engage the timeline, I can stretch time out or I can make it grow closer together. So if you have ever, for instance, last week I talked about, I don't know which group it was, but I talked about, the time where basically I had to get from one point to another point in a very short amount of time, and I didn't have that amount of time in the earth. So I went to the heavens and I engaged the timeline, and I took it and I just squished it together to make this time come to this time, and I was there. So I've had other times where I needed more time in a group that I was leading because, for instance, we were engaging in heaven, and I knew that beforehand I had this one girl who needed to leave at a certain time. We didn't have enough time. So what I did is I just intentionally went and I stretched out the time so it would last longer. Do you know what I mean? And so it was amazing what happened. It lasted a really long time. And we were like, this doesn't make sense. Many of you have probably done this by accident. If you are really deep in prayer, or something like that. Have you ever had a time when you're so deep in prayer and you're like, what just happened? I was praying for 5 hours. It felt like 5 minutes. I mean, this has happened to me many times, and maybe you have the opposite that has happened to you where you're like, wow, I feel like that was 10 years. And so anyway, but we maybe are engaging the timeline without meaning to. And so how I engage the timeline may not be the same way that you engage the timeline. Maybe God will lead you to do something else with the time in the heavenly realms. Be sensitive to the Spirit, but the most important thing is to know that we don't have to be governed by the time, but we can govern the time. And if we are not governing the time, time will govern us. And so let's just be mindful that everything we do, we need to be governing in a way that is from God. It isn't something that's led by our souls, our mind, will, and emotions. We need to be doing this by the Spirit. We need to be led by the Holy Spirit when we're doing it. And we need to make sure that it's His ways that are coming to pass. So anyway, that's what I would say about engaging the timeline. Kim, do you have anything to add to any of that? Oh, was that a no? Okay. Okay. Yeah, Connie said I try to do that when I don't have enough sleep. That's so true. Someone was just asking me about that. I don't remember who it was. If it was one of you, I'm really sorry if I didn't respond to that, because I remember someone asking me about that today or yesterday. But it was about not having enough time to sleep and not having enough time to get everything done. And this is really important that when we engage the timeline, that we're able to do that, especially at night. I think that's really important. There have been many times when I knew I wouldn't have the time that I needed to rest, okay? Because a lot of times God has me working like really late hours, and then I have to get up early. And so when this happens, I know I'm not getting enough rest, but I intentionally just ask God to elongate my sleep, give me quality sleep. And when I always engage in heaven right before I go to sleep, so my spirit's at work. This is what I like to do. So anyway, I go and I place myself in a place of rest in the heavenlies. And so I have different places where I rest, and I think I may have told some of you that my son and I like to meet in heaven at night, and rest together. And so when that happens, my spirit's at work, but I get quality rest. Even if it's only a few hours that I'm getting, I get better rest when I do that. And so anyway, I think it's really important. Even that's a different way of engaging time. I'm not going to the timeline to do that. I'm just trusting that God will provide for all of my needs in an immense amount of time. He will use the time in heavenly places, I could be going and doing years of work in heavenly places in 3 minutes, or whatever it is. And we need to make sure that we just let our hearts come in line with that and recognize that it doesn't have to be the same time here. And so someone said, wow, how much time do you spend with God? And I'm like, well, okay, you guys probably think I don't spend any time with God, when I'm like, I go from thing to thing all the time. So I have a minute here and a minute here and 3 minutes here. But I've had some very powerful and moving experiences, some of my best simply like on the toilet in the bathroom. And it sounds crazy. It's a very short amount of time, but it's my alone time. I don't have a whole lot of alone time with little ones at my house. And so anyway, that time can be really useful. And in the heavenly places, I'm having a huge experience that seems like it's lasting a long time. And it's really been, 3 minutes. And so there are things that can happen in the heavenlies that is a lot more time, if you will. He accelerates things in us, even if it's a short amount of time on the earth. So, yeah. Anyway, okay. Let's see. Do we have any questions? Kim, have you been paying attention to questions?
Yes.
Okay.
There was only one that I saw that didn't get answered. It was from Linda, and she asked, how do you know if you're connected to a blueprint?
Oh, okay. Well, for me...
how do you know what blueprint you're a part of? Sorry, Linda, I was ad-libbing.
Oh, it seems like the same sort of thing. First of all, I would say you probably should look at a couple blueprints. So if you have people around you who have a blueprint, that's a good place to start. If you don't, well, you guys know us, and so we have a blueprint we can share and show you more about. And so you might go, I just don't really feel connected. Like, that doesn't resonate with me. That's not something the Spirit is jumping in me going, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do. You're just like, well, that sounds good. Okay, so you'll kind of know. You'll know. I feel like I know when the Spirit is pulling me to something. And so, or you might even get a mandate that says for sure. So sometimes people get mandates on a scroll or whatever in the heavenly places that tells them for sure what they're supposed to do or not do. Most of the time for me, I would say I get a leading, if you will, like the Spirit really calling me and pulling me. So I would start by doing that. If you're in our area, like Linda, is this Linda Pin?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. So I know you're in my area then. You're actually... And so anyway, if you're in my area, then we know lots of people with blueprints, and we can show you lots of blueprints. So the best thing to do is probably see if you're connected to a blueprint by exploring people's blueprints. And I know several other people around the world who have blueprints. And so if you're in Australia, I know of someone who has a blueprint and it's not being established yet. And so I would love to connect you with them to see if you're connected, and maybe you are, maybe you're not. It doesn't always have to do with regional stuff, but sometimes it does. So anyway, that's probably a good place to start, is by just looking, or also seeking if God has a blueprint for you. And so a lot of times you can do that in the scroll room. And so ask if Jesus will take you to the scroll room and if there's a blueprint for you. If you get it, great. If you don't, great. Okay. He really has the best plan no matter what. So for me, I don't receive blueprints, but I definitely feel connected to them. And so there are ones that I know for sure I'm connected to. So let's see. I try to do that when I have enough. Okay. I have seen blueprints, Bella says. Okay, great. If you've seen blueprints, maybe have you seen that you have blueprints, or you've seen other people's blueprints? Bella. Well, don't know. Okay, well, I'm glad that you have seen blueprints. Maybe we can connect. with some of the blueprints that you've seen too. All right.
I've seen him in the war room.
Okay. Yeah,
In the
actually,
strategy room.
yeah, I know what you're talking about, the Court of Strategy and the Court of War. Yeah, this is a place a lot of blueprints are, well, people bring blueprints there, people get blueprints there. That's another place too. That's good.
Yeah, they weren't left on my throne or anything.
Yeah. Okay, so are those blueprints for you, or have they been for other people when you've seen them?
This was for strategy. I got two different kinds. I've got one for strategy and one for the future. And I was just saw it, but I was like, Lord, can I read it? One I got to read, one I didn't yet. It's not time.
Gotcha. I've been told
But
that.
I also saw my destiny book on my throne room. I mean, on my throne on the mountain. So
Cool.
it's neat to see those things, but you're like, there's so much to read.
Well, I don't really get to read in heaven so far, so I take that back. I have seen certain things, but very rarely do I actually get to read things in heaven. But they are revealed to me somehow. So it's funny, like I'll get legislation, and it's just like I see the scroll and stuff starts appearing on it, but I'm not reading it in my spirit or with my spiritual eyes, but it's just revealed to me in my mind, and I'll write. And I'm writing these words that come to me, even though it's not something that I'm actually reading. It's weird. So, all right. And then Birdie said, do you have blueprints from any Canadian group? Would be interested to see more blueprints. I'll have to think on that, but I don't think I have anybody in a Canadian group yet that has revealed a blueprint. Yeah, I'll think on that, because I know quite a few people in Canada engaging the heavens, and I'm not sure if they have. I know that we're not connected so far, or we haven't been shown that we're connected to any blueprints in Canada, but I'll let you know, Birdie. Okay, cool. Well, it's 7:31. Let's engage in heaven. You excited? Okay. Kim says yes, yes. Okay, so if you would like to turn off your video, oh, look. All right, someone just turned off their video. Victoria, I have to tell on Victoria. So last week she didn't know that her video was showing the whole time and was really embarrassed when she saw the recording of it, which I thought it was lovely personally, because I often have to have my eyes open to watch the chat and also and so anyway, I saw a lot of your stuff and I thought it was beautiful. So don't be embarrassed, but if you do want to turn off your video, in the bottom left-hand corner, it says stop video, boom. So, all right, I'm going to stop my video. So you don't see me acting crazy, but you know, there you go. All right. Well, oh, Jesus, thank you so much for allowing us and for guiding us through. We just want to honor you with everything that we have. Tonight, if you feel led, you can unmute yourself and say something if you'd like. There aren't too many people on, so you're welcome to do that. Or you can type in the chat box anything that you see or experience today. And Jesus, we want to really honor you today, and I really feel like you're wanting to release blueprints to people today. So we want to ask that you lead us to the appropriate place and that you help us to receive your blueprints. I know it's not for everybody, but we do want to honor you in that, and we want to know if we're connected to different blueprints too. We want to see your kingdom come to the earth. We want to see kingdom order in our lives. And so even if you want to just show us more of our blueprint for our lives, you know, the mountains that we have, if you want to reveal those mountains to us, we would love to see that too. And so right now, we just ask that you lead us wherever you see fit, that we can receive these things. Thank you, Lord. I just got the sense personally that that I was being led to go to several of your mountains. And so if you feel led to go to your mountain to see the blueprint that that he's given you for your life, basically just have him reveal what the different mountains are that he wants you to govern. Also, you can ask him to give you a blueprint straight out, like in a scroll, if you feel led.
Should we go to our mountain on our own, Christine?
I would if I were you, yes.
Yeah, I don't need anybody at my mountain.
Right now, he's showing me more of my power mountain. It has to do with frequencies, electrical frequencies, healing frequencies, electricity, all of that in my mountain, giving me more depth, like the mountains beneath the mountain. And I'm also receiving some healthy conviction about how I have not been governing this mountain well. And so I'm heading personally to the courts, and I'm just going to go repent right now for all of that. So you guys feel free to do your own thing. And if you have anything that you experience, feel free to share it in the chat box. This might be helpful for other people. I think this is why he led me to do this. But as I went to repent for not governing that mountain and not paying much attention to it, he was having me repent for laziness and neglect and several other things. And he was showing me that these are the reasons why this mountain hasn't been well established. And it's really because I was personally neglecting it. And so those were the open doors for that to not get established. And so there were times when I thought I wasn't governing it because there was nothing to govern. And he was just showing me it was the opposite, that there was nothing to govern because I wasn't governing it. And so, anyway, that might be a word for many of you for different things in your life. So, yes, Connie said she was led to her health mountain as well. I feel like that there are people who have not taken the responsibility to sit in their throne and rule as a king in the Father's kingdom. And just like the prodigal son, how God wants to put a robe on you and place that ring on your finger and show that you are one in the kingdom and you have authority. It doesn't have to do with how far away you've gone. You can do that at any time as long as you come back to him, he's saying. Connie said, my husband said he saw several mountains: worship, intercession, service, and teaching. Right now he's on his service mountain. It's wonderful. I also just felt like this is why these two teachings were connected today, is that I need to redeem the time that was lost on my mountain for not governing it. And so maybe some of you need to do the same thing. So I'm just going to ask Jesus to take me to the timeline. And I'm going to go to the time in the past. And I'm just going to see myself governing over that mountain and redeeming that time. And I feel like I need to give some clarification on governing your mountain. You know, you can release things there in a good way from heaven into the earth. You can also stop things from coming up onto your mountain that are bad or that are from the enemy. The same sort of thing we do from when we're going to the courts, and then we go and we sit in our throne and we declare and we decree things from heaven into the earth. We do the same thing every day from our mountains. And so we can go and govern over our mountains by doing that same thing, by just declaring the ways of God over our lives. Jesus just showed me that there's someone who he's wanting to just rest in him on your throne, sitting in him. And so be with Jesus on your throne. I just saw like this a white fuzzy sort of blanket being put over you for a place of rest. And I feel like this is showing the comfort of his love over you and that trust and just resting in him. And so this place of not feeling guilty, but just resting and not striving. And now he just showed me that it's time for us to go to the river of life and just drink deep from his joy and his love. And so we're going to go with Jesus to the river and spend some time just resting and relaxing in him. Although I saw some people playing, I think it's really important that he's trying to show us that this, it doesn't just have to be in serious governing, that it's that just being with him and drinking from the river of life, that it's bringing us more and more life that comes out through us when we do govern. And so just being with him is equally as important. And I just saw someone go over to the tree of life and pluck some fruit off and just like underhand toss it to a person in the group and then do it again and toss it to another person in the group. How much? Thank you, Lord. And then Linda said, I lift my crystal wine glass and drink. Cheers. Linda, it's funny that you said that because I saw it was just myself and I took this big old barrel, like, I don't know, the old school wine barrels, and I took one of those and filled it up with water from the river and just dumped it all over myself and then ended up in the river just like swimming the backstroke. Mm. Victoria said, I just saw Jesus and I standing under a waterfall with our mouths wide open and drinking the water and laughing. So fresh. That's awesome. And Bella said, haha, I was floating in the river. Linda said, you're having a kegger. Okay, thanks. Yes. Birdie said, I saw myself splashing and kicking the water with my feet and such joy and laughter. That's so funny because I saw several people like splashing the water and I thought it was really cute and playful. Linda said, never been a drinker except for the river. That's right. Well, Jesus, we thank you so much for just enlivening us and really giving yourself to us and showing us more of who we are and who you want us to be. We want to rest in you. We want to govern like you. We want to spend time with you and feel your love and your joy. And we just want that to resonate out through our lives. And so thank you for spending this time with us and for giving us the peace, giving us the love and the joy, even just the fellowship and the time to learn together. We love you so much and we want to honor you with everything that we do. So we just ask that you seal this whole experience with your blood and you penetrate deep into our hearts everything that you want us to keep and anything else that you just discarded if it's not something that you want us to hold on to. Thank you, Lord. We love you. Amen. Well, guys, so I was talking to everyone a little bit before this, and I want to make sure everybody knows. So this was the final session of the intro classes. We have, of course, the same session 6 starting tomorrow on Thursday. If you guys want to go back over the intro classes, maybe you missed the first few or something. If you want to do that, I'm going to start another intro class in a couple weeks. So it'll be the very first of April. It'll be the Wednesday and Thursday in the first week of April. So we'll be starting that then. If you got a lot out of it and you want to invite people to be a part, just ask them to add themselves to the Engaging Heaven intro class group. We also have mentoring groups that are now open to you since you have gone through the intro classes. So for everyone after this final session, you're welcome to join one of our mentoring groups that we have. Kim and I both are doing mentoring groups. And then also we have another lady, Becky, who is doing a mentoring group specifically on intimacy with God. And so if you want to grow in that, I would definitely be a part of Becky's group if you're wanting to do intimacy with God. If you just want general Engaging Heaven stuff, Kim and I are both doing kind of general mentoring groups that have to do with Engaging Heaven. So anyway, yeah, let us know if you want to be a part of it. We're going to put kind of an enrollment thing on the website, and so I'll be posting about that in our group. If you feel like you've gotten everything you could out of our intro classes, no problem, that's awesome. Keep growing with God, and if you want to, you can remove yourself from our Facebook group so you don't just keep getting updates about intro classes. But I do hope to keep connected because we're going to be doing meetups. God has told us this actually just last week. He revealed, at least to me, that we need to do meetups for all of these groups that we have, so in different areas of the world. So we'll be doing several meetups and probably, I don't know, maybe do a conference or something like that when we do it. So that should be fun. I can't guarantee we'll come to every single country that we have represented, so you might have to travel if you want to be a part of it. I'm not really sure, so God will lead us in the right places, I know. So anyway, that's what's up. I hope you guys have had a good time on these intro classes. It has been a super great pleasure for me. Of course, like I talked about last week, if you want to trade into what the source is doing, feel free to go to the giving link that is on the intro pinned post. I think it's engagingheaven.thesourcewichita.com/give or something. No, .com/give. All right. Kim, do you know? Okay, I'll type it, I think. Let me see. engagingheaven.thesourcewichita.com/give. There you go. If you're interested in trading into and sowing into the source, that is welcome. But of course, never feel obligated. Only give when God really pulls your heart to do so. we definitely just want to do everything for free for the body of Christ. This is nothing that we want to charge for. So I will say this, that for our mentoring groups, it is something that, at least for mine, God has told me in the past that I needed to ask for $7 a month if possible. And of course, you don't have to give $7 a month, but we have big technology costs that keep growing as we add more things and more microphones and more Zoom accounts and all of these things. So if you feel led to do that, that would be wonderful, to sew in $7 a month for our mentoring groups. But don't feel obligated, of course. Just do it if you can. So anyway, that's that. We love you guys. Stay in touch, please. Oh, look at Kim's heart. See? Hey, Soren, you want to say bye? Look.
Bye. Be loud and awesome proud.
There you go. Okay.
Yep, Fan 3000 motto.
Oh, thanks, Soren. He's doing a little shameless pitch.
App Fan 3000 on YouTube.
Okay.
Check it out.
Thanks, Soren.
You're welcome.
So, Kim, you have something to say?
I don't. I just unmuted to say goodbye to everybody.
All right, let's unmute everyone. All right, you guys can say goodnight. We love you.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
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 Hasta la vista.
Bye, guys.
Bye. See you.
Bye. I love seeing these beautiful faces. It's my favorite.
As everybody leaves. One.
All right. See you guys. Yeah. All right.